Welcome to video number 2 in our discussion of flight simulation. As to our previous video, I will be posting links uh, to the software and things that I am talking about in the video in the description of the link, so that you will have access to those links to pursue your research and purchasing of said software. In the first video, we talked about the system requirements for flight simulation, for the flight simulator itself. We discussed the subscriptions and the needed software to actually get started. You do not need these next bits of software we're going to discuss, but they could add immersion and a touch of realism and a bit of a helpfulness to your flight simulation experience. With TFM on the website, there is a list of checklists for both the 737 and 777 that will allow you to control every aspect of the plane from startup to shutdown without any sighted assistance. These checklists will walk you through everything from pre-flight to shutdown, where you can flip all the switches, turn all the knobs, set all the lights, do everything. And for some of you, you may wish to do that. I want to try it at some point. But I want a video where I actually do it and know what I'm doing so that I have it to work off of, and I've not been able to make that yet. But that's beside the point. Some of you may want to go and do every checklist and flip every knob, but as it is always stated, no one person flies a jumbo jet by themselves. That is not what is expected. Realistically, that is not what happens. One person cannot do everything that is required in a jumbo jet. So the first add-on we're going to talk about is an add-on called First Officer. It is called First Officer V6. It's gone under several different names. It used to be called First Officer Pro when it only worked for older simulators that are no longer considered supported by the blindness community and by the overall blind pilots community. It was then called First Officer Next, as in First Officer Next Generation, when it was strictly for MSFS 2020. Now it is called First Officer, just First Officer 6. So what does First Officer do? Well, it in its basic description, First Officer does exactly what it sounds like. It can be your first officer. It can be your co-pilot. It will perform the checklist, flip the switches, prepare your craft for takeoff, landing, cruise, all of that. And all you have to focus on is either your comms or flying the plane. Or your comms and flying the plane. First officer does have a purchase price to it. But the way that it charges prices, the way that it gets its revenue is it charges for per plane or profile that it works with. So for example, if you are flying the Boeing 737, you will need to purchase a license for the Boeing 737. If you wish to fly other planes, for each plane you wish to fly, you will need to purchase a license. First Officer works with a variety of planes. Not all of them are accessible with Talking Flight Monitor. There is another add-on for another set of planes, but we are not discussing them in this tutorial. We are sticking with TFM and the PMDG planes at this time. If people want videos later on for the other things, then we will consider that. But right now we are sticking with the two planes that work. So PMDG, the 737, and the 777, you will need to purchase licenses for. First Officer, when you activate those licenses, will ask you to create a checklist for each of these planes. The checklists will go through everything from start up to shut down. And everything in a plane is done by a checklist. I don't want to spend too much time on the subject of checklists, but checklists allow you to do everything. They examine every switch, every knob, every setting to make sure that it is ready at a given state, which is very important. So first officer will be your companion and will help with those things. Will also help with turning on the autopilot and other switches while in flight. It will even help you, in the case of the 37, set your frequencies for landing when you do ILS approaches. And we will demonstrate a flight in the 37, most likely, dealing with an ILS approach. Now keep in mind, in TFM, you do not need first officer for any of this. You can do all of this using TFM only, and we will have a tour of TFM's interface in a later video tutorial. So that's what first officer does. If you want to add some air traffic control to your flights, and you want to feel as if you're actually talking to air traffic control, but you are afraid of going online to actual real people, or you don't want to deal with the unpredictability of whether or not you will have a controller at your destination or your departure point, well, have no fear. There is a solution. It is called Say Intentions. I happen to have been one of the people who initially tested Say Intentions when it first came on the scene, and back then it did not do instrument flight rule flights very well, or IFR flights. I will explain IFR and VFR here in just a moment, but suffice it to say, it needed some work. It is far better at this now and can even vector you directly to your localizer. And I've actually managed to successfully do vectors because it will vector you onto the right place. I do want to point out that 99% of the time, if Say Intentions gives you a vector, follow it. Follow the instructions that your air traffic controller gives you. If you are still learning and you may not know how to quote unquote change a runway, last night I actually had to change a runway myself and managed to do it. But if you are new to it and you do not feel comfortable changing runways, that is where you can have pilot's discretion. And if you would rather land at the runway you want to land on, remember this is a simulator. You are not going to get in trouble for landing on a runway that Say Intentions does not want you landing on. It may say something like the runway is not active. It may say that the runway has problems. If you are not comfortable switching runways or you're not that familiar, by all means, land on the runway you're comfortable with until you learn more about your plane. But for the most part, when there are vectors involved, follow your ATC's instructions. Don't just delete the vector out of your flight plan and not follow it. So ATC will add a layer of realism. It will also allow you to, Say Intentions will also allow you to get VIP passengers. It will also give you a co-pilot, which will assist you in your comms. Remember what I said earlier about if you have first officer, the only thing you'll have to worry about is your comms and your flying the plane. Well, Say Intentions will have someone help you deal with the comms so you don't have to. Now, the way that works is when you're on the ground, you still have to control the comms. You still have to set the frequencies. There's a way to make it so much easier than it used to be, and I will be going over those things in later tutorials. But, again, first officer, if all you want is first officer and you don't want ATC, that's fine. If you want ATC and first officer, but you don't want a co-pilot to handle your comms, that is fine too. If you want to have a practically fully automated experience, except for a few things, and you want first officer to handle all the switches and checklists and everything, and you want a co-pilot to handle your comms, that is perfectly fine too. That's what I do. Um, because most of the time when I'm flying, I am also streaming, and so I can't deal with looking at chat messages and trying to hear chat messages and trying to hear frequencies and trying to respond to ATC. It's a lot. And that's not me complaining. I'm just saying the choice is up to you. You have a lot of options. You have options based on your budget, based on your preferences, based on your requirements. And there's nothing wrong with that. I want to get on to one more thing that a lot of people like to have in their flights. And again, this is not a requirement, but this product is called self-loading cargo. Now, do not let its name fool you. Um, it is a passenger add-on as well as a cargo add-on, and you can have it make passenger announcements. You can have it load passengers for you. It will simulate passenger behavior and will give you scores based on that. At the end of each flight, it will give you a breakdown of how well you did and what your overall satisfaction rating is. And that's actually really cool in a way because it really lets you know as a pilot what your passengers thought. When I did it, I actually had a 95% satisfaction rate, no, 98% satisfaction rate with my passengers, which that was actually really nice. Um, it is accessible. Last time I tried it, which was some time ago, but it seems to still be accessible. It does have associated cost with it. It's $21 right now. I bought it when the product first came out, so I only paid, I think it was like $9 for it at the time. Um, it's called the Early Access Edition for me, but if you want passengers and you want an accessible experience, by all means give self-loading cargo a try. Again, it is not required to fly. It is there for immersion purposes. And if you are like myself and you want the most immersive experience you can get, you're going to want to get this. If you don't care about such things, then by all means, you do not have to get it. So, to summarize this video, we have discussed several add-ons that are optional, but can make your experience more easier and immersive. We discussed the Say Intentions, self-loading cargo, and first officer. One thing I did not discuss is Say Intentions pricing. Say Intentions is AI, and so therefore there is a subscription price associated with it. I think it's now $18 a month or $180 a year, I believe. So it is the most expensive out of all of the subscription-based products that you can encounter with ATC or with this hobby that we use. But if you want a fully immersive experience with ATC and you want it accessible and you want the reliability of knowing that you have a controller regardless of where you're flying from or to, then you will want to pick up Say Intentions. This concludes video number 2, and we will put out another video that will discuss some other things and perhaps take a look at the interface for Flight Simulator.